Doctor who warned Prime Minister Boris Johnson about PPE dies with COVID-19. He was only 45-52 and leaves behind a wife and 2 children. This is heartbreaking, sad. If you are continually exposed to people who are infected, does it cause a more severe reaction to COVID-19? As opposed to someone who may be infected by a single interaction with another person who is infected? Poor guy. For everyone wondering, he had no underlying health conditions. He died as a direct result of contracting COVID-19. Source: https://www. Google. Co. UK/amp/s/amp. Thaguardian. com/world/2020/APR/09/ consultant who pleaded for more NHS hospital dies of coronavirus. Not only has a hero gone quietly into the night, but he did so likely knowing his fate and continued to serve. The country is much diminished, for his decades of training and experience are now forever lost. Having medical professionals combat COVID without proper PPE is like having soldiers fix bayonets and charge machine gun nests. No, just the doctor, but Boris Johnson is doing fine. PM that ignored him survives. He worked at my old hospital. I recognize him from the coffee shop. This is so sad and so real. I feel such shame we have failed to be prepared, and allowed our NHS to be stolen. We need more people like Abdul Mabud Chowdhury. He will be missed. For years now, people have been warning that the NHS is in dire straits. You go to any public hospital and you see patients waiting for hours in hallways to receive emergency treatment, and exhausted medical staff. A decade of Tory austerity has stripped our NHS bare. Now, Labour and other leftist parties haven't been demanding greater funding for the NHS in the anticipation of an epidemic like this one, but I completely suspect that a better funded NHS would have been far more able to cope with this. I mean, we gave up on testing with less than 1,000 cases in this country. And now our doctors and nurses are risking their lives against this disease, for a lack of some scraps of cotton and plastic. I want Johnson to recover. And I want the country to wake up to the fact that this is a consequence, unforeseen as it was, of voting Conservative. People are dying because we're short on face masks. We are one of the wealthiest countries on the planet, with a supposedly proud history of public health care and medical standards. Of course the coronavirus will take lives, but so much of this could have been avoided. The government has been trying to increase the supply of PPE for some time now, hasn't it? The family picture hit me in the fields. Man, it's always the truly evil people that get away with no consequences. My father would not be afraid to point out what was wrong. Because he cared about people, he cared about his co-workers, his colleagues, his family, he cared about people he's never even met. We need more people like Chowdhury in the world. This is such a big loss. All those countless hours of studying and schooling and expertise all gone because some rich asshole wanted to save some money. I hope we get hit by an asteroid. Doctor who warned Prime Minister Boris Johnson about PPE, dies with COVID-19. Oh my God, I just read the quotes from his 18-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter. Absolutely incredible children, they brought me to tears. Their father left behind an amazing legacy of the kind of man he was in them. Sad. This thread is a cesspool. Rip to this doctor. Totally misread this as Doctor Who. So was his name Doctor? Or does this man have a name? How the fuck are there no stockpiles of PPE? I mean, how can it be that not every fucking hospital has at least 3 months worth of stockpiles for all their workers? It seems bizarre to me. Did they just assume that there would never ever be a global pandemic? And why don't governments have additional stockpiles for every hospital for like 3 months? What the fuck are they doing? Maybe that Boris Johnson should have listened more at the outset. The doctor is a fallen hero, and that skunk Johnson takes advantage of a medical system he abandoned to reckless lack of policy and preparedness. Did anybody else read Doctor Who and get excited? So looks like UK has their own version of a Dr. Lee Wen Liang. How the hell did this happen twice? Every time I read about a doctor or other healthcare worker who tried to talk, who tried to tell everyone the truth and tried to help others and then gets this virus and passes on, I just feel enraged. There is a special place in heaven for this doctor and for the other doctors and healthcare workers who have gotten this disease. May they be welcomed into God's arms. May the rest of us here spend the rest of our lives praying for them and their families. Doctor who died. Is that to be expected now? Dr. XYZ warned politician ABC of coronavirus, now dead due to coronavirus. This is unfortunate, sad. Doctor who is dead. Yet people are hero worshipping UK government right now. When in reality after this they should stand trial for their woeful unpreparedness. People praise the NHS yet they let the country down by being unprepared. Management's fault, of course, not frontline. RIP. May he not be forgotten. What's relevant is he was a doctor in the heart of this pandemic vowing to do his duty. The physician's oath. Their families and they need to know we do not take their deaths in vain. Financially support them and find a vaccine. He died, so Boris can live. Not Doctor Who. Who else saw the title and thought it read Doctor Who as in the television show at first glance? Doctor Who warned Prime Minister, read that one wrong for a minute. This poor hero dies and Boris recovers. Truly there's no justice in the world. My shit cunt Trump sucking neighbors are throwing a party every day. These are the type of retards who put up a sign that says support the troops back in 2003, but they won't stop tongue punching each other's fart boxes for 2 fucking seconds to save the lives of the medical staff who will inevitably sacrifice themselves. They are absolute human trash and people like this doc should not be dying for them. So what did he die of? Obviously very sad, but I do want to note that it's not like BJ isn't trying to get more protective equipment. Obviously there's a massive shortage globally right now because every country wants this stuff. It's possible that if it wasn't for austerity we'd have a better supply of that stuff in reserve. It's also possible that the money would have been invested elsewhere. But the idea that a lot of people in the comments seem to have that the UK gov is just dicking about, using face masks to light fuel their fireplaces or whatever, is absurd. My colleague for 14 years, since being a student nurse, caring and down to earth in a way that is very rare for a senior surgeon, I worked through many a lunch break with him and he just kept on coming back for more. I will only have fond memories of him. RIP Mr. Chowdhury X. I know this is serious, but did anyone else read the title as Doctor Who warned Prime Minister? Dies of, or dies with? Died of or with? Reading his children's interview in the article was what hit home for me the most. Incredibly articulate and insightful after experiencing one of the worst losses. My father is 52 and working as a doctor full-time. He has dedicated his life to saving lives and bringing new ones into the world. If he died due to improper safety equipment, I would be livid. This man's death was a governmental failure and Boris Johnson himself should feel shame that he survived this disease and the man he ignored about safety concerns passed away. Doctor Who warned Boris Johnson, is what all British people read when they saw this headline. I'm sure Boris Johnson will live and be just fine since he probably gets the best possible care. Meanwhile this guy was actually meaningfully contributing and he's now dead. This sentence could have probably been better thought out. I thought I was reading a Doctor Who plot at first. This is like the third time I've seen an article started with Doctor Who and every time I've had to reread the title after realizing it isn't about the Doctor Who television show.